Yes. So what is an imposter syndrome?
So this is again kind of a belief, self-ingrained belief that you are not good, or sometimes it can get the worst form, like kind of developing a supercilious attitude.
Yeah, right. So, a persistent doubt concerning one's abilities or accomplishments, accompanied by the fear of being exposed as a fraud, despite doing really well, or despite having some kind of success. You constantly feel like a fraud, and that is called imposter syndrome. And if you look at Adam Grant's book, Think Again, he talks about it in detail. He says if you plot confidence and competence in a graph, if you have low competence and high confidence, you sometimes come across as somebody who is displaying an armchair quarterback syndrome, which means that you come across as someone who over believes in yourself, though you do not have the skills or expertise, right? And in the sense they do not have the skills and expertise to back up whatever they're trying to say, and they always have this expert opinion and everything. So one example that comes to my mind with this kind of syndrome are our politicians, right? They always have a say for everything and everything, anything, and they come across as experts, but actually they're not, right? On the other hand, we have people who will have high competence but low confidence, and hence, no matter how good they are at something, they end up showing that they're, not good enough, or they have this self-doubt, and they always refrain from showing up or doing things and taking risk and so on because they doubt their own competency, right? Because of lack of confidence. Now this imposter syndrome can come up in various ways. It can show up as a perfectionist, it can show up as an expert, it can show up as you're a natural genius, soloist, or a super person, right?
Rashmi, may I add something? Sorry for
Yeah,
butting in here.
yeah.
One aspect that I have learned about imposter syndrome is that let's say if these people who have this belief they are successful, more often than not they attribute their success to chance, luck, or due to others' influence,
Correct.
on their work or their
Absolutely.
life. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
yeah, just
absolutely.
wanted to share that.
Correct. That's right. Right. And, today's focus is, so I'm not going to go through all of these, because it's the words are simply straightforward. You feel like an expert. You're an expert, but you feel like it because you don't know everything, or you believe that you're naturally intelligent or not. Or if you can't do it alone and take help, then you're an imposter. Or you're supposed to have the super person, kind of credential, which means that you have achieved the highest level. If you don't, then you feel like a fraud. And today we are focusing on the perfectionist who believes that unless you did something absolutely perfect, that is without a fault, okay, you feel like an imposter. And because your perfectionist trait make you believe you're not good as others might think you are, right? So you may feel like people have great expectations of you, but you did not come through it. And that's why you feel like a fraud, right? So this is what we're going to focus on today. So basically, what is it? Perfectionism is the wish for everything to be perfect, accurate, most importantly, without fault, in the way we work, in the way we live, in the way we show up, and so on. While it's great to look good, and be the best possible way, whether you do certain, things in a particular way, it's also great to have high standards. But if you get stuck in the doing that results in not doing anything at all, then it becomes a trap. I can give you an example. I love listening to music. Because I'm so passionate about listening to music, I want to listen to music in the perfect environment. So what do? I go ahead and buy the best headphones possible, which has that surround sound effect. Or I make arrangements to, listen to the music in a room or in a forest, in a park where there is no noise, no distractions, because it has to be perfect. I also start thinking about, who should I listen to the music with? Maybe with a friend, maybe with a partner or a spouse or somebody who likes music. So I'm caught up in doing everything right for me to listen to music. I just forgot to listen to music because I'm stuck in this loop of making it a perfect place to listen to music. So that's the perfection trap. It's okay to be passionate. It's okay to have high standards, but how far are you willing to go to make that happen? Are you getting trapped? And that can happen with everything that you do in your work, in being a good parent, in being a good son, daughter, mother, father, whatever that may be, right? So that is what we are talking about, perfection trap. Now, how do you spot it? What do you guys think, are some of the ways that you know that you are getting stuck? We could do a aha slide.
We can spot it like when we see someone
Yeah.
showing good intention in the first place,
Mhm.
but we are not able to kind of validate it against the results that we are seeing.
Yeah, that's a
Let's say
good
someone
point.
has really worked very hard, like spending night and all that, and yet the outcomes are still falling short of what was kind of expected, right?
Hmm.
Which we also expect that could have been achieved if it had been done in a slightly different way. So that this is
Yeah,
one way I think we can spot that, yeah, this is something someone is really trying to overdo, like try to
Yeah,
shine the shoe more than what it is already shining.
yeah,
they
correct.
What
try
more
too
shine you
hard.
can add? Yeah.
Yeah, they try too hard. They keep
Yeah,
trying. They have to
yeah,
just do it like Nike. Yeah.
just do it, right? Keep doing it, not just do it. Yeah, you're right. So, some of us have this, perception that there are people and there are some who are not, but that's not true, right? Everyone falls into the trap, and it's not a binary thing like either I am perfect or not. Everybody has perfectionist tendencies. However, for some it is occasional, for some it is situational, but a lot of people who suffer have either compulsive, chronic, or even like a debilitating kind of tendencies, which where they get trapped into it so much that they can't do anything normally, or their normal activities get affected, right? So but everybody falls into this trap once or twice in their lifetime, or maybe on a daily basis. Now, Brené Brown says, when perfection is driving you, shame is the shotgun. What does it mean? It means that whenever you are trying to be perfect, it is because you are thinking that if if I'm not perfect, or if I don't be the best, then I'm going to be criticized, blamed, or ridiculed, right? Which means it's a way of saying that um, you know you will be vulnerable whichever areas you are most vulnerable to shame is where you will try to be more perfect, right? It could and that's a burden that you carry everywhere, and instead of avoiding embarrassment, you end up getting embarrassed, or you think that you won't get hurt by being perfect, but you'll end up being hurt because perfectionism is driving, and then you get trapped. So what do you guys think about it? Do you believe that perfect when the areas that are most vulnerable to shame is where you are trying to be perfect? Can you share an example if anybody wants to?
I guess maybe in the context of work, when somebody works on a job for weeks and weeks and weeks, don't want to show it to their colleagues, even for feedback, until they think
Yeah.
it's actually really, really ready. And then it takes rather when you can actually do it in 2 weeks together working, just because that person doesn't want to share, it became 1 month. And then they show it to people, and then it's not really exactly what your client or your colleague wants anyway.
That's right. Perfect example. Thanks for sharing, Alia. So that's what happened. Sometimes when I'm writing a blog or planning for this webinar, I try to put this PPT together, but I'm improvising it over and over and over. If I improvise it like, for 1 day, 2 day, I think it's still okay. But if I continue it for weeks and months and then not do this webinar at all, then I'm getting stuck, right? Because the output is not there. And the whole intent of me doing something is not being done because I'm trapped. Okay. So that's one, the way to spot it. Another way to spot it is your mindset. When you're a perfectionist, your mindset is saying by being perfect, I'm minimizing or avoiding criticism and hence not getting hurt. But to your point earlier, we are ending up getting hurt, right? Now, another way you can find out is by reflecting what is driving you. Is it the mastery or the need for recognition? If mastery is driving you, you're your own benchmark. It's intrinsic. You're trying to do it because you want to, become better at whatever you're doing. If recognition is driving you to be a perfectionist, then you're trying to please someone so that you get recognition. And that's where you will get trapped. Because when mastery is your goal, you can be your own benchmark and continue to, there is nothing to compare. So you're going to do well, you're going to do best, whatever is best, possible. And then when the deadline comes, you'll go ahead and deliver it. But when you're waiting for recognition, that's when you're thinking, oh my God, will he like it? Will she like it? Will I get, promoted if I do this? If I don't do this, will I get, punished or penalized and so on? So what is driving you? That could be one of the key factors. Have you come across something like that? Where you crave for perfection because someone else wants it.
Yeah, Rashmi, I would like to share my own experiences at the start of my career as a trainer, not as the
Yeah.
engineer or something. That is where I was really worried about, getting more business, getting continuous business, because I was in a situation, I left my job. So this was the situation. So I felt, what is the best way of feedback that I can get is people recognizing me as a good trainer.
Hmm.
Now, at the start, I didn't really have a feedback mechanism that whether the person liked it or not. And many times I started giving some comments or some knowledge to people, and people are convinced, kind of, But I always wanted to see that aha on their face, and I started giving more and more. My trainings got extended by some 10% time or something like that, and then. So when I got a feedback from people, they said, "Yeah, we were convinced. There is no point in getting too deep." So I
Yeah.
think there's a balance.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
it happens with me all the time. After every workshop, you ask for feedback, and then I get 10 great feedback, and there is one negative feedback saying you did not recap, or, you did not introduce yourself well, or somebody will say the screen was not clear, something like that, right? And I beat myself to it. I start thinking about, oh my God, it was such a silly mistake, such a stupid mistake, and I could have done it better. Why did I do this? And I've totally forgotten about the 10 great feedback that I received, right? So our minds are tuned to focus on the negative, and that's a trap. So instead of trying to please others, if you're trying to, build mastery for yourself, you are less likely to get trapped, right? And that's another way to spot it as well.
Yeah. So
If you'd like to
Rashmi,
add,
I had a comment over here.
Yeah.
So it also tantamounts to gaslighting, where you think you're a perfectionist and you always keep running down other people. Especially it may happen in your own family, because then your family is with you all the time. Oh, you can do this better. You can do this better. Like
Yeah.
earlier, I didn't know that word is called gaslighting. Then I read it somewhere. Then I did Googled it. I said, oh my God, there was a movie that was written on gaslighting. How you
Yeah.
actually make a person believe that that is an idiot. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
And there's a movie on that too. It's really interesting. Yeah. Sorry, just my 2 cents.
No,
Continue.
no, that's great. You took us to the next topic, which is why do we get trapped and what causes it, right? Most often it's caused because of conditional love and acceptance that we have. In our early childhood, parents or friends or relatives or teachers unrealistically have high expectations of us. I remember my mom used to tell me, I love you because you keep your shoes in order. I love you when you listen to me and get good marks, or I love you when you do this and that. And in order to hear that I love you, I would do it more and more perfect and keep it like going. And because there was always this comparison between, a brother and a daughter, or a son and a daughter, you always want to show up much more. So there is a gender aspect as well, right? Boys are always considered strong. Girls are always considered obedient and nice and submissive and sweet, right? So that's another expectations that we have, and that gets developed when you are kids, and you internalize it so much that it shows up in your career as well. right? And the fear of judgment or disapproval, from others also drives you to be a perfectionist in your workplace, especially. So there is this unhealthy perfectionism that you get into because of the fact that people may, question you or doubt you, or like Vijay said, I'm a new trainer, I want to make business. And if people don't approve, I won't be able to stabilize myself, or I won't be able to grow, or especially for independent entrepreneurs who do not have a job, it's tough because you want to be accepted, you want to make money, you want to be successful, you want to be established. So that fear of judgment also drives you, into those perfectionist tendencies. It's okay to do that, it's okay to have higher standards, but how far are you going and getting caught in it, is something that you may want to reflect on. And the sad part is, and the irony is, that the workplaces reinforce it. The more you are good at something and expert, you are rewarded and promoted. And that's why you tend to do it more and more, because you want to be rewarded, you want to be promoted. Who does not want a good life? Right? So these are some of the reasons, and these are just few reasons, that make us do it. But these are some strong reasons why. And whenever you're doing something, it's, which is leading you to become a perfectionist, you have to take a step back and say, okay, which one of these is actually driving me? Is it fear of judgment? Is it because my workplace demands it? Is it because I am tuned to that way because I'm a girl or a boy? Or is it because my wife is saying, if you don't do this, I will not stay here, I will leave? Or the child is saying something else, and your parents are expecting high of you, and so on and so forth. So just take a step back and reflect, right? Now, why should we care? What is this going to happen? What happens if you're getting stuck in a perfectionist trap, right? There are two things that can happen. Initially, on a short term, you're getting stressed, right? It causes unnecessary panic. It puts you in a threat mode. You're always trying to defend and prove yourself, and that takes a lot of energy, time and peace from you. And in the long run, it can lead to getting, more psychological disorders like anxiety, depression. And there are instances where people have committed suicide because of these expectations from, the society. So we have to catch it when we can and stop it from growing.
Yeah, it's more common among students, young students in India, especially because
Yeah,
of this
and
competitive exams and all. Yeah, they
correct.
don't even have competitive exam, common board exam and all. It's all within the school and university.
Yeah, and have you not, read articles in the newspaper where children have committed suicide because somebody got a 97.5% instead of a 98%? That is absurd, right? And that's the kind of pressure our children have today in terms of, the kind of education system we have. And even in workplaces, right? You get depressed, you're anxious, you're constantly in a panic mode, you're not your best self. And there is
Yeah,
so much more about psychological safe spaces. People are talking about it because that has become a need now. Earlier it
yeah,
wasn't. Everybody was doing normal things and being okay with it. But now there is so much pressure that psychological safety has become, a need.
yeah. So no, that's correct. It doesn't mean that you don't have to be perfect. There is the element of detached attachment. Like you do your
Yeah.
100%. It's very important to do. A lot of people do. Chalta hai. Don't have the chalta hai attitude. Do it 100%, but don't wait for returns. Oh, I did it. Still, my boss didn't appreciate. Who
Yeah.
cares? You did it for yourself, not because your boss wants to. So that detached attachment is very, very important. You have to add that element to everything. That's myself actually.
So this is
So
a
that's how I
wonderful
do.
point,
Like,
Margaret. Yeah, I mean, I'm always like more motivated to add on to this conversation, Rashmi, if you allow.
Yeah, please.
Because I was just pondering that, at some point of time when we are in so much of heat of these things, like it drives us sometimes intrinsically,
Hmm.
that we forget that there's a very thin line between perfectionism and excellence. What you talked about, like being mastery, is like
Mastery.
going after the excellence. But what happens normally, people get trapped in trying to be perfect. More often than not, it is to gain some kind of recognition, and that drives, and then looking at this slide. So had it been that if we are looking at like trying to be our best version every day, can I be like much better than what I was yesterday? And I try to, have this kind of a practice. So I try to be master like Sachin Tendulkar and Roger Federer. Like they never let they never stop until they see that, okay, fine, I have got a very perfect backhand. When I say perfect, I'm trying to say that, okay, under any situation, under any condition, whether it's a clay court or a grass court and all that. So th- these people who we say they are trying to excel in their field, right? And excellent doesn't mean that you're above mistakes. Yes, you can still make mistakes, but then there is a class, then there's something that you do so uniquely that others in that trade are not able to achieve that
Yeah.
through their effort. So there's a very
Yeah.
thin line I can see between, often I hear from gurus that they say to try to be excellent, not necessarily perfect.
Yeah, and to your
Yeah.
point, just to add to your point, a Sachin cannot be Dravid and Dravid cannot be Sachin.
Yeah,
They're two
yeah,
unique
absolutely.
individuals
Uniquely, yeah,
who are great in their own way, but both are legends, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Each one of us have our own unique capacities and competencies. And if you start comparing with each other and trying to be someone else, you're going to be under unwanted stress.
Yeah, comparison is a thief of joy. Theodore Roosevelt.
So, Rasmi, you take Dravid and Sachin, correct? So, where we place them? For example, if you like a one-day match, Sachin is the best person to be in the team, and if it is a test match, so Dravid is the best person who can stand and then very slow and steady, he can able to do that. So, I
Right.
want to add, one more point actually. So I work with many leaders. Okay, so there are some leaders, they say, okay, don't wait till the end point. You can send the intermediary. We can discuss. We can proceed. I have seen other leaders where they will say, no, no, I want the final version. I don't want intermediate version. Whatever I receive, it should be perfect. There shouldn't be any. So we have to first understand whom we are working with and what type of work we are doing, because we need to see their expectation, correct? Like if your leader is looking perfect one, where you are sending intermediate one, they won't agree. Even though you want to work with them, like get some review and then work is a draft version, and then you come up with the final version. But
Yeah.
some people will accept that, some people don't accept. So we need to understand them. Based on that, we need to provide the inputs or how much. I totally agree. We should not spend too much perfection, but there is a degree of perfection. How much we can do,
Yeah.
because of perfection, we may be delaying the things. Correct. That is the biggest problem. Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Vijay. There is a balance which Vijay spoke about. You need to be able to understand and see the big picture. Is there a sense of urgency? Is there, a need for you to spend that much time because there is a persona that is really valuing that kind of or that level of quality or perfection? Then you may want to, right? So
Yeah.
based on the persona, based on the different kind of stakeholder needs, based on who you are working with also matters. But what we are also trying to say, it irrespective of that, sometimes you may have bad bosses, sometimes you may have stakeholders who have very tough expectations, but do you really want to get to a point which will cause stress and anxiety for you by taking it too personally, to Margaret's point, and killing your peace and your freedom and your health in order to get there? Maybe
Yeah.
it's not
So
the right environment.
yeah, just 2 cents, Rashmi. It's okay to be stressed for a short while. You shouldn't like be stressful forever or something happened 2 years ago. Because anything, I always remember that even I always like I had a project that I put forth. It was actually a firefighting project, and I put my sweat, blood, and tears. That 5 weeks, I was really stressed because I was thinking, how can we turn this project around? How we can turn this project around? So I was stressed for 4 weeks, but after that I'm gone. Like I'm done. I'm like so it's temporary. Sachin Tendulkar always said the next day he has batting, he doesn't sleep in the night. I've read he said that he doesn't get sleep. He's like so anxious. It's okay. 1 day, 2 days, but it shouldn't be a constant thing. That's the time you'll be sick.
Yeah. And even when you say 1 day, 2 day, but is it really worth it? Instead of getting stressed, can we accept that, and like you said, don't get attached to the outcome emotionally. You want to do a good job. You want to be the best at whatever. You want to put your best foot forward. But do you want to get caught up in it so much that, it adds stress to your life? You don't want to be stressed. You can do it peacefully, knowing that you're going to give it your best shot and it may not turn out to be well. And it's okay. Right. And as leaders, I'm sure all of you are leaders in one or the other capacity. And as leaders, are you invoking that kind of a stress in others? Is another question that you can ask yourself. Are you expecting people to be perfectionists? If you are, then how can you stop yourself? right? By telling them it's okay that you can fail, or by creating that safe space for them to work and say, and be creative and productive at the same time, right? So one example that I had is 12, 15 years back, I used to be a team leader, and my manager said, I want to put you up for the next level for promotion, and said, I'm going to ask feedback from your peers to see how things are going. At that time, I used to be a perfectionist, hardcore. Okay. And one of the feedback that I got, from one of my colleagues actually was heartbreaking. So that person said, Rashmi is a go-getter. She's amazing. She's, gets everything done absolutely well. But she's so intimidating that we fear being around her, because it's difficult to feel, to feel that we are less than her. And it hurts. So my manager said, I like the fact that you're doing very well and things like that. But if you can't be a team player, then we cannot give you that promotion. Right. So it was important for me to mellow down and say, okay, what is my perfection is being the need to be perfect for me is causing others to be in a, bad space or a negative or a toxic space, then I shouldn't be doing it. So I took a step back and worked on it and tried to reflect, and in 3 months I did get the promotion. But it taught me a big lesson, that when you are perfect, it not only adds stress to you, it also adds stress to everyone around you, right? So how can we be self-aware of that as leaders, as peers, as colleagues, as managers and team members, to add stress to others' life and to ourselves, right? Because it affects both relationships, personal and professional. Another thing that it also does is it affects inclusion, for self and others. So if you don't accept yourself making mistakes and you punish yourself, how can you allow others to make mistakes, right? So inclusion starts with you. So how can you include yourself and accept yourself the imperfect way you are, with the flaws, with the mistakes, with the, not so great things that you are, and still say, I'm good at who I am, and I'm going to accept myself for who I am and move on. I learn, right? So that's another thing that, you should think about when you're doing it. Now, how do we overcome it? You have to overcome it because we know that it has a lot of negative, effects. Now, one way to do it is practicing self-compassion, which means, like I said, accept who you are for the way you are, because no one is perfect, right? And in one of Robin Sharma's book, it's called who will cry when you die, right? He says that, just sit down and list all the mistakes that you've done in your life. Okay, put it on a sheet of paper. Next to it, put down all the lessons you learned because of the mistakes that you made. Okay. And then in the third column, he says, put all the benefits that came in because of the mistakes and the learnings you had. You will realize whatever life you have today would not have been as colorful and as rich if not for the mistakes that you made. Right? So everybody's life has gone through some kind of a change because of the mistakes that we made. So it's important to accept it, and it's okay, and be kind to yourself. And that's what I say by, or mean by saying self-compassion. Okay, so that is one way to do it. The other one is, adopting a growth mindset, right? You need to have that power of intention to say, this is what I'm going to do, and here is how I'm going to be open with whatever things I have. And I will practice deliberately to make sure that I, do whatever I need to do, and step away from those beliefs that I'm not good at this. What happens when you have a fixed mindset? You believe that your intelligence is born, you're something you're born with, or you believe that I do not have this talent, so I cannot sing, or I do not know how to dance, so I can never dance, or I do not have this capacity, that's why I can never do. So you'll have to drop that and bring the power of intention to say, so what if I can't sing like Lata Mangeshkar? I will at least sing to whatever I limit, capacity I can. And with deliberate practice and, effort, I may be a better singer than who I am today. I may not be a Lata Mangeshkar, but I'll definitely be a better singer if I start today. right? So how can we adopt a growth mindset to say that if I have the intent and if I put the effort and practice, I can move the needle from A to B or A to C, right? So that's your second one. The third one is change your narrative, which means appreciate the journey, not the result. This is just reiterating what Margaret has spoken before, right? So if you enjoy the journey that you have had so far and appreciate, one of the ways you can do is a gratitude journal. If you start writing a gratitude journal every single day, research has proven that if you write a gratitude journal every night for 4 weeks, your happiness quotient will improve by 50%. So you can be happier by 50% if you write a gratitude journal. There is something else called savoring, where you're going back and reliving the moments that you've had, some great moments that you've had in your life. Like, let's say when your child was born, just go back to that memory and, enjoy it. Albums do that for us, photo albums, right? You go back, you relive a trip or a picnic or an event, and then you feel so good about it. That also helps you appreciate a journey. And when I say change your narrative, I'm saying instead of focusing on how far you have to go, focus on how far you have come today, right? Instead of feeling terrified of mistakes, consider them as a proof of learning. Oh, this is so much I learned, right? Instead of feeling threatened by others, feel inspired by their journey. If there is someone who is really doing well in your organization and you feel like, oh my God, I can't talk to her, I can't reach her because she's so good. No, don't feel threatened. Feel inspired to do more for yourself, because if that person can reach, I can also reach, right? And say yes to opportunities and don't run away. When you are a perfectionist, procrastination becomes your partner. Unless you are perfect, you'll keep procrastinating stuff. But when you say yes to opportunities, you're accepting that you are going to make mistakes and you're going to take the risk willingly, by choice, and going to learn something out of it for sure, right? So just want to end this with a quote saying, to err is human. So if you make mistakes, you're being human, and there's nothing wrong in being human. So be yourselves and do whatever you need to be, be happy and have a peaceful life. So that's all I had today, actually. So I'm open to questions.
This is
I
great.
have a question, Rashmi.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much for the talks. Really, really nice theme. I really enjoyed your conversation. Your message is all resonates to me. I'm an agile coach. In terms of coaching leadership, right? I see a leadership who has this realistic perfection expectation on their teammate, and I really see the damaging it caused to the team itself. For example, blame game, right? Because oh, it's not my fault, it's their fault. Oh, I could not complete this because this person does not do his job on time. So it's actually really, really damaging to the teamwork itself. And nobody's a team player when I see leaders are like that. Everybody's I just gonna get promotion, and the only to do that is I'm going to show to my perfectionist leader that I'm the best, right? So everybody's kind of stepping on each other's toe. And how do you coach these kind of leaders? I would very much like your input on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alia. First of all, thank you for your great feedback and comments. The second is, I'm also a leadership coach. We conduct trainings and try to educate leadership on there are two ways, right? When you call a leadership is agile or a leadership is good at what it does, there are two things. One is ability to accept the change that is happening and have that growth mindset, and take decision based on the mindset so that some action is happening. So he is able to think differently and act differently. That is one. Based on your question, it looks like this leadership has a expert mindset, or himself is a perfectionist, right? He is stuck in a trap, and we need to make him probably realize and educate him that he is stuck in a trap, and that you can do with coaching, as you self is a coach. And then make them realize that what damage it is causing for the others. Maybe some leaders are not aware that they're doing it, like I was when I was a team leader, right? People said I
Mhm.
was intimidating and, I was causing more harm than good. So maybe that person doesn't know. It's good to talk to them and have that conversation and make them realize. Could be one way to do it. If you have done it already and that person doesn't budge, then I think that person lacks the growth mindset to, understand the damage that he is causing. And unless the person is willing to change, you can't really force them, right? That person
Mhm.
needs to be willing to be coached for you to coach.
Yeah.
So yeah, if that doesn't happen, then it's not your fault. Don't beat yourself up for it.
Oh, I'm looking for a silver bullet, but I guess not. There is none. Thank
No,
you very much for your answer.
yeah, thank you, Alia. There is no silver bullet. We are be dealing with humans, and human systems are extremely complex.
Yes, agree. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Rasmi, you touched one thing on about childhood parents. Like, see, actually, there is a saying also: whatever you do it correctly, correct? So,
Mhm.
or it's not perfection, but it is correctly. So that is even good at meaning. Parents are the ones spending time with the kids. They need to broad them in the right way, correct? I think I've seen one comment, but actually, it shouldn't lead to that. Basically, what you're trying to say is not only parents; it's about society. It's
Yeah,
about what is written in the subconscious mind. That's what you are trying to address there, I believe. Yeah.
correct. So, there is one thing that I always do with my son, okay? Whenever I have to teach him something when he was a kid, somebody had taught me that, always, say that don't tell the children that you are bad. Say, I am not approving of this behavior. So then you're correcting their behavior and you're not penalizing the human, right? So it's the
Okay.
same thing that goes with everybody. As parents, when we are correcting our children, we have to correct them for the behavior that they are doing. Maybe they are not coming up and showing up as experts, or maybe they are not doing something flawlessly. You can tell them, you try and do this. But sometimes children do not have the capacity. Their mind is not developed as much as we want them to. Their physical ability is not there. We can't expect children to be great at sports, great at studies, great at everything and perfect. It's too much of an expectation on them. And once they fail, let's say you put those expectations on them, but they failed. What are you doing with them when they fail is what will define whether that child will internalize it or not. If you are going to tell you're useless, you're a loser because you didn't win that game, then that comment will get internalized because they're feeling like a loser. Those
Okay.
words won't matter. But if you're saying, you know what, it's okay, you failed, you put effort more, next time you do really well, I think they will not internalize it as much and say, okay, I'm a loser. Instead, they may say, oh, this time I didn't do it, but my mom is encouraging, so I'm going to go ahead and give it another try. So that's the ability to take a risk, right? You're not
Okay.
judging them for who they are as people, but you are telling them to do better with the behavior or the effort that they're taking. You're not, you're encouraging them to put that effort. And growth mindset is all about putting that extra effort to do better next time and taking the risk. And fixed mindset is saying that, I'm not good enough because I do not have the talent. I'm not good enough because I was not born with it, or I can't change. You should not internalize the fixed mindset traits, but instead try to help them develop the growth mindset traits by encouraging the efforts and not their failures.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Rashmi, this imposter syndrome, I just found something interesting again.
Uh-huh.
The opposite of it is called Dunning-Kruger effect. Sure, you
Yeah.
have heard about it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the armchair quarterback
That's the
syndrome,
armchair quarterback. Yeah, that's what it mentioned.
where
Yeah.
you're like, you do not have the expertise, you do not have anything to back up, you do not have knowledge at all, but you will go brag saying that, oh,
Right,
I
yeah.
know this. I can go ahead and change the world, because they're overconfident. They think,
And they always come with the excuse that nobody asked us or nobody told us. So,
yeah, yeah. And there is always blame game in that. In fact, Carol Dweck says that it's better to have an imposter syndrome rather having a armchair
yeah,
quarterback.
yeah,
Because with imposter syndrome, at least you will put an effort because you feel you're not good enough. You will put extra effort to do better. On
absolutely,
the other
absolutely.
side, you will be so overconfident, you're not even aware that people are seeing it.
you will be actually spreading more harm.
You're embarrassing
Yeah.
yourself in front of a crowd because you're coming across as someone who knows everything while everybody is able to see you know nothing. Right? It's better to be on this side so that you know that you can develop and grow rather than on that side.
Amazing. What an amazing session. Thanks. This was really fabulous today.
Thanks, Hiren.
A lot of
Thank you
good
so much
insights.
for all of you for, coming and participating and asking
Yeah.
wonderful
Yeah.
questions.
So, Rashmi, one parting note was in whether you're a perfectionist or you are doing excelling in what you do, you actually become an influencer. That's how influencers are made. No, the latest jargon, right? Influencer.
Yeah.
You become an influencer. That's what I see myself in organization. People have been there for 20 years. They're doing the same job, and
Yeah.
it's like so monotonous for them that they don't even realize they're doing it wrong. Like I had this session. Oh, the QA saying, "Oh, we don't do training sessions, or we don't even do snapshots for the business. For a new application." I said, "Why would you not do snapshot?" "Oh no, we don't do it." I had to really actually escalate it. So that person has been there because in my previous organization, QA actually does videos on. They do videos on training and they send it on Teams and they send it to the business.
Oh.
They go to that extent, but whereas here the culture of the organization is, oh no, we don't do this, we don't do that. Why not? So it actually helps you to think beyond the box and like benchmark to see what other companies are doing and where you can actually it's supposed to QA do that, but they are trained to believe, oh no, we don't have to do this, we don't have who will do it, like. So that's the thing. So influencers are actually it's also like it comes within that may not be perfection, but excel. When you excel, you become an influencer. Oh, if this can be done, why not?
Yeah.
Sorry, just 2 cents.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. The difference is between being a perfectionist or driving for excellence, right? If you're not driving for excellence and you're going beyond, you're not
where you're
achieving
stretching
excellence,
yourself.
you're
Whereas
getting stuck.
some people, I always say, like, quality is not an accident. You need to make an effort to give quality products. So that means you're living the moment when you're doing your thing, whether it's coding or whether you're thinking, and you're not thinking of something else. So it's a lot of attributes to it. Most of it is living the moment. When I'm in my meeting, I am in the meeting. I'm taking minutes. I'm seeing what people are taking. I'm recording it. I'm 100% there. To get thing, and then that actually I use for my other next meeting. So every meeting has meaning. Not just go for a meeting, attend. So many people are saying important things, you don't even make note of it. Because you've been there for 20 years, you don't care. So, like it makes a lot of difference. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you for your session. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Thanks, Vijay.
Yeah, hey guys, thank you so much. It was a really wonderful session, especially in the terms of time of delivery and the value that is generated. When you say perfection, you took very less time in spreading your word and then giving time for people to come back and discuss about those topics. I think that's a really great thing. One of the sessions which finished in time or before time. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And
Vijay.
again, yeah, and I would like to invite you to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe us. That really motivates us. Okay, and yeah, with that, see you next Saturday, same time, same location, every Saturday.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.